John Miller was an ordinary lab technician with extraordinary bad luck. At 32, his life consisted of routine blood work at County General Hospital, microwave dinners, and weekends spent alone in his small apartment. Nothing remarkable ever happened to John, until the day he accidentally pricked his finger while handling a new piece of equipment. "Damn it," he muttered, reaching for a tissue. One drop of his blood fell onto the scanner's surface before he could wipe it away. The machine wasn't supposed to be operating yet. Dr. Susan Ward had received it just yesterday, an experimental analyzer from some government research grant. John was only supposed to unpack it, not activate it. But that single drop of blood changed everything. The machine hummed to life, its screen flickering with strange symbols John had never seen before. Thinking he'd broken the expensive equipment, he frantically tried to shut it down. Nothing worked. The symbols continued to scroll, faster and faster, until they suddenly stopped. A message appeared in plain English. GDNETAKKE ID INTEDIV ID SIGNAL activated. John stared at the screen in confusion. What signal? What key? He called Dr. Ward immediately. "Something weird is happening with that new machine," he explained when she answered. "I'll be right there," she said, concern evident in her voice. While waiting, John noticed something strange. The cut on his finger had completely healed, not just stopped bleeding, but disappeared entirely. No trace remained of the injury that had occurred just minutes ago. When Dr. Ward arrived, she examined the machine with growing amazement. "This isn't possible," she whispered, checking the readouts. "The machine is detecting something embedded in your DNA, John. Something that shouldn't be there." "What do you mean?" John asked, suddenly nervous. "I mean," she paused, looking up at him with wide eyes, "your DNA contains artificial sequences, engineered markers that appear to be some kind of code." They spent the next 3 hours analyzing John's blood sample. The code in his DNA appeared to contain coordinates, stellar coordinates, pointing to a location deep in space. "This makes no sense," Dr. Ward said, running her hand through her hair. "How could this be in your DNA? In your family's genetic line?" John shook his head. "I was adopted. I never knew my birth parents." That night, John couldn't sleep. He stood on his apartment balcony, staring up at the stars, wondering what it all meant. Was it some government experiment? A bizarre medical condition? Nothing made sense. At exactly 3:17 a.m., every electronic device in his apartment activated simultaneously. His TV, microwave, phone, all displaying the same message. BEACON or ECIVD. Arrival imminent. John's heart raced. He grabbed his phone to call Dr. Ward, but before he could dial, a blinding light filled his living room. When his vision cleared, he found himself facing a tall, slender figure with pale blue skin and large almond-shaped eyes. John Miller, the being spoke, its voice melodic and clearly non-human. "Your blood carries the legacy key. The time has come." "Who? What are you?" John managed to ask, backing against the wall. "I am Guardian X5, emissary of the Galactic Council. Your ancestor was chosen as a genetic vault, entrusted with coordinates to the greatest treasure in the known universe." The being extended a 6-fingered hand. "And you, John Miller, are its rightful heir." Outside the window, a massive ship materialized in the night sky, hovering silently above the stunned city below. John's ordinary life had just become the most extraordinary story in human history. John stared at the alien standing in his living room, his mouth dry with fear. Guardian X5 towered over him by at least 2 feet, its blue skin shimmering like polished metal under the apartment lights. "This can't be real," John whispered. "I'm dreaming." "This is very real," X5 replied. "Your blood activated the beacon that has been dormant for generations." John's phone rang. It was Dr. Ward. He answered with shaking hands. John, something's happening. The military is surrounding the hospital. They're saying there's an alien ship over the city. Susan, John interrupted. One of them is in my apartment. Silence filled the line. Then, I'm coming over. Don't do anything until I get there. 20 minutes later, Susan arrived, out of breath and wide-eyed. She froze when she saw ZX5. Amazing, she whispered, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. An actual extraterrestrial being. ZX5 regarded her with large, pupil-less eyes. You are John Miller's friend. That is good. He will need allies. The alien explained that thousands of years ago, a highly advanced race called the Founders had visited Earth. Impressed by early humans' potential, they selected certain bloodlines to carry special genetic markers, keys to unlock technology that could elevate humanity. The Founders believed that power should be earned, not given, ZX5 said. They embedded these keys in human DNA, set to activate only when your species reached a certain level of technological advancement. Why me? John asked. I'm nobody special. The selection was not about status or power. The Founders chose bloodlines that showed compassion, creativity, and courage. Your ancestors possessed these qualities. Outside, the sound of helicopters grew louder. ZX5 looked up. Your military approaches. We must leave soon. Leave? John echoed. Leave where? To the Legacy Repository. The coordinates in your DNA point to its location, 15 light years from Earth. Susan grabbed John's arm. You can't just leave with an alien you've just met. Dr. Ward is correct to be cautious, ZX5 said. But there is danger and delay. Other species have detected the beacon. Some will try to claim the legacy by taking you by force. As if on cue, the building shook. Through the window, they saw military helicopters surrounding the alien ship hovering above. Your government will try to control you and the legacy, ZX5 warned. And they are not the only threat. Another tremor rocked the apartment, stronger this time. The lights flickered. That was not your military, ZX5 said grimly. Rival claimants have arrived. A second ship, darker and more angular than ZX5's vessel, appeared in the sky. The Vex Consortium, ZX5 explained. They collect technologies from across the galaxy, often by eliminating the rightful owners. John looked at Susan, panic rising. What do I do? The choice is yours, ZX5 said. Stay and risk capture by your government or the Vex, or come with me to claim what is rightfully yours, knowledge that could transform your world. A loud crash came from downstairs. Someone, or something, was breaking into the building. We have moments, not minutes, ZX5 warned. John made his decision. Susan, come with us. I need someone I can trust. She hesitated only briefly before nodding. ZX5 touched a device on its wrist. A shimmering field surrounded the three of them, just as the apartment door burst open. Armed soldiers rushed in, but their hands passed through the energy field as if through air. Prepare yourselves, ZX5 said. The journey begins. In a flash of brilliant light, John Miller, ordinary lab technician, vanished from Earth, carrying in his blood the key to humanity's greatest adventure. Lights surrounded John and Susan, then faded. They found themselves standing in a circular room with walls that glowed soft blue. The floor beneath them was smooth like glass, but warm to the touch. Welcome to the Skyseeker, Guardian ZX5 said. This vessel will take us to the Legacy Repository. John felt dizzy. 1 minute he had been in his apartment, and now he was on an alien spaceship. Susan steadied him with a hand on his shoulder. Are you okay? She asked. Just processing, John replied, looking around in amazement. We're actually on a spaceship. ZX5 guided them to what appeared to be the ship's control center. No buttons or switches were visible, only smooth panels that lit up as the alien approached. Please secure yourselves, ZX5 said, gesturing to two chair-like structures that emerged from the floor. We must leave Earth's orbit quickly. The Vex consortium will pursue us. As they sat down, the chairs molded to their bodies, surprisingly comfortable. Through a large viewing panel, they could see Earth growing smaller. No rockets, no shaking, no G-forces, Susan observed. How is this possible? The ship creates its own gravitational field, HFY explained. You will experience no discomfort during acceleration. The blue planet shrank to the size of a marble, then disappeared as stars streaked past them. We are now traveling at speeds your science considers impossible, HFY said. The journey to the repository will take 3 Earth days. During those 3 days, John and Susan learned more about the legacy. The founders had been a peaceful race who achieved technological wonders before mysteriously disappearing from the galaxy. They had left repositories of their knowledge for species they deemed promising. The human repository is one of 12 scattered across this sector of the galaxy, HFY explained. Each contains technology suited to the specific species chosen to receive it. Why not just give the technology directly? Susan asked. The founders believe that gifts given too easily are rarely valued, HFY replied. The journey to claim the legacy is part of proving worthiness. On the second day, alarms blared throughout the ship. HFY moved quickly to the control panels. The Vex have followed us, the alien announced. Their ships are faster than I anticipated. The viewing panel showed 3 dark vessels approaching. They resembled sharp-edged diamonds, their surfaces reflecting no light. Can we outrun them? John asked. No, HFY said, but there may be another way. The alien's hands moved across the control panels. Suddenly, the stars outside shifted as the ship changed direction. We will pass through the Scara Nebula, HFY explained. Its radiation interferes with tracking systems. The nebula looked like a vast cloud of glowing purple gas. As they entered it, the ship shuddered slightly. Will this damage the ship? Susan asked nervously. The Skyseeker has protection against the radiation, HFY assured her. The Vex ships are less shielded. They will either turn back or risk severe damage. For 6 tense hours, they traveled through the beautiful but deadly nebula. John watched as readouts on the panels tracked the pursuing ships. 2 turned away. 1 continued the pursuit. They are determined, HFY said grimly. As they emerged from the nebula, the pursuing ship was closer, but clearly damaged. Parts of its sharp surface had been eaten away by the nebula's radiation. We have gained some advantage, HFY said. We should reach the repository before they can intercept us. On the morning of the 3rd day, they approached a small, unremarkable planet orbiting a red dwarf star. It looks empty, John said, peering at the barren world. The repository is hidden, HFY replied. Only your blood can reveal its entrance. The ship descended toward the planet's surface, landing in a vast desert of red sand. In the distance, a mountain range rose sharply against the alien sky. The final part of our journey begins on foot, HFY announced. The repository awaits its rightful heir. The red desert stretched before them, wind whipping sand against their protective suits. HFY had provided John and Susan with clothing that adjusted to their bodies, regulating temperature and filtering the planet's thin atmosphere. The entrance lies within that mountain, HFY said, pointing to a tall peak about 2 miles away. We must hurry. The damaged Vex ship will land soon. They trudged across the desert, each step kicking up clouds of red dust. Despite the alien environment, John felt strangely calm. Something about this place seemed familiar, as if he had been here before. I feel it too, Susan said when he mentioned this, like déjà vu. The genetic key in John's blood creates a connection to this place, HFY explained. The founders designed it this way. After an hour of walking, they reached the base of the mountain. Its surface appeared smooth, with no visible entrance. What now? John asked. Your blood will reveal the way, HFY said, producing a small device. May I? John nodded, and HFY pressed the device against his finger. It pricked his skin painlessly, collecting a small drop of blood. The alien then pressed the device against the mountain wall. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the rock began to glow where the blood had touched it. Lines of light spread outward, forming intricate patterns across the mountain face. With a low rumble, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a passage into darkness. The repository recognizes its hair, HFY said. But this is only the beginning. They entered the mountain, lights automatically illuminating their path. The tunnel led deep inside, eventually opening into a vast chamber with a high ceiling. In the center stood a tall pedestal with what looked like a basin on top. The trial chamber, HFY announced. John, you must face the Founder's tests alone. Susan grabbed John's arm. Alone? Is it dangerous? The trials test worthiness, not survival, HFY assured her. However, they must be completed or the repository will remain sealed forever. John approached the pedestal cautiously. The basin contained a clear liquid that rippled without any wind to disturb it. Place your hand in the liquid, HFY instructed. Taking a deep breath, John dipped his hand into the basin. The liquid felt cool at first, then warm. It began to glow, changing from clear to bright blue. John felt a tingling sensation travel up his arm and spread throughout his body. Suddenly, the chamber around him disappeared. He found himself standing in what looked like a hospital room. A child lay in a bed, clearly very ill. A nurse approached John. You are a perfect match, she said. Your bone marrow could save this child's life, but the procedure carries a 5% risk of permanent disability for you. What do you choose? John realized this was the first trial. Without hesitation, he answered, I'll do it. The scene shifted. Now he stood on a battlefield. Two soldiers, one wearing his own country's uniform, one an enemy, lay wounded before him. He could only carry one to safety. What do you choose? A voice asked. John knelt between them. I'll try to save both, he said, tearing strips from his own clothing to bandage their worst wounds before attempting to drag them both. Scene after scene presented him with increasingly difficult moral choices. In each, John chose compassion over self-interest, cooperation over conflict, understanding over judgment. In the final trial, he faced himself, or rather, a perfect copy. Only one can claim the legacy. The copy said, if we both try, neither will succeed. John studied his duplicate, understanding the test. Then you take it, he said. If it helps humanity, it doesn't matter who delivers it. The copy smiled and vanished. The trial chamber reappeared around John. Susan and HFY stood where he had left them, though it seemed to John that hours had passed. The trials are complete, HFY announced. The repository accepts you as worthy. The far wall of the chamber slid open, revealing a corridor bathed in golden light. The legacy awaits, HFY said. John walked toward the golden light, Susan and HFY following close behind. The corridor opened into a circular chamber much larger than the first. The walls were lined with what looked like liquid metal, constantly shifting and rippling. In the center of the room stood a crystal pedestal, and floating above it was a sphere of pulsing blue energy. The heart of the repository, HFY said in a reverent tone. The collected knowledge and technology of the Founders. John approached slowly, feeling the strange pull toward the glowing sphere. What do I do now? Place your hand on the pedestal, HFY instructed. Your genetic key will unlock the final barrier. As John reached out, the air around them suddenly filled with a high-pitched whine. The walls trembled. The Vex, HFY exclaimed. They'd found us. Susan looked around frantically. Can they get in? Not easily, but they have weapons that could breach even these walls given enough time. John knew he had to act quickly. He placed his hand on the crystal pedestal. It felt warm and seemed to vibrate in tune with his heartbeat. The blue sphere pulsed brighter, then descended slowly until it hovered just inches from John's face. Images began to flood John's mind. Blueprints for machines he couldn't comprehend, formulas for materials that shouldn't exist, medical procedures that could cure any disease. The knowledge was overwhelming. "I can't. There's too much," he gasped, struggling to process the information. Susan moved to his side. "What's happening to him?" "The legacy is transferring to his mind," HFY explained. "No physical device could contain all the Founder's knowledge. The genetic key in his blood prepared his brain to receive it." The sphere pulsed once more, then began to shrink. As it did, John felt the information organizing itself in his mind, becoming accessible rather than overwhelming. The sphere continued to shrink until it was no bigger than a marble, then settled into John's outstretched palm. "It's incredible," John whispered. "I can see it all now. Cures for every disease on Earth. Clean energy that would never run out. Materials that could end scarcity forever." Another explosion shook the chamber, stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We must leave," HFY urged. "The repository has served its purpose. It will now begin to collapse." "Collapse?" Susan asked in alarm. "A security measure. The knowledge is now safely transferred to John. The physical structure is no longer needed." They hurried back through the corridors as tremors grew stronger. When they reached the exit, they found 3 humanoid figures waiting. Unlike HFY's blue skin, these beings had gray, metallic flesh and eyes that glowed red. "Vex warriors," HFY said grimly. "They will try to take John alive. The legacy can be extracted from his mind." Painfully. The lead Vex stepped forward. "Surrender the human carrier. Do so, and you may leave unharmed." John felt a strange calm. He reached into the newly organized knowledge in his mind and found what he needed. "I have a better idea," he said, holding up the small blue sphere. It began to glow brighter. The Vex warriors stepped back, suddenly uncertain. John focused his thoughts, and the sphere expanded, creating a shimmering barrier between them and the Vex. The alien warriors fired their weapons, but the energy blasts dissipated against the barrier. "The ship," John said to Susan and HFY. "We need to reach it now." They ran past the confused Vex warriors, who seemed unable to penetrate the shield John maintained. Behind them, the mountain rumbled ominously as the repository began its final collapse. As they raced across the desert toward the Skyseeker, John realized he now carried the future of humanity in his mind. If they could make it back to Earth alive. The Skyseeker shot through space, its engines pushed to their limits. John sat in the control chamber, his eyes closed in deep concentration. The knowledge of the Founders flowed through his mind like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes overwhelming. "How much longer until we reach Earth?" Susan asked HFY, watching John with concern. "At our current speed, approximately 36 hours, the alien replied. "But the Vex will be in pursuit soon. Their main fleet was already on its way when we escaped." John opened his eyes. "We need to modify the engines," he said quietly. "I can see how to do it now." Over the next 4 hours, John guided HFY through a series of adjustments to the ship's propulsion system. His hands moved with newfound confidence, applying knowledge that had been hidden in the legacy. "This shouldn't be possible," HFY remarked as John rerouted energy pathways. "Even my people don't understand the full extent of Founder technology." When they finished, the engine core glowed with a strange purple light instead of its normal blue. "It should be 3 times faster now," John explained. "And I've added a stealth field that will hide us from Vex scanners." Susan stared at her friend in amazement. Just days ago, he had been a simple lab technician. Now he was modifying alien technology with the casual ease of someone fixing a bicycle. "Are you still you?" she asked hesitantly. John smiled, the familiar warmth in his eyes reassuring her. "Still me, Susan, just with a lot more information in my head." The improved engines cut their journey time significantly. As they approached the solar system, HFY detected a Vex communication signal. "They're sending a message to Earth," the alien said with alarm. "They're claiming that we are hostile invaders. They're trying to turn your planet against us." John frowned. "Can we broadcast our own message?" "Yes, but they've had hours to poison the well," HFY replied. "Your military will likely shoot first and ask questions later." As they entered Earth's solar system, they detected multiple spacecraft launching from Earth, primitive by alien standards, but armed and dangerous. "Earth Defense Force," Susan said, recognizing the insignia on the ships. "They formed after we disappeared. The world must have been in chaos when alien ships showed up." John closed his eyes again, accessing the legacy knowledge. "There's a way to prove we're not hostile," he said after a moment. "But it's risky." He instructed HFY to adjust their approach, bringing them in through Earth's atmosphere at a specific angle. As they descended, John activated a sequence that sent a pulse of energy ahead of them, harmless, but visible as a beautiful aurora that spread across the sky. "What did you do?" Susan asked. "A peace signal in Founder code," John explained. "And I've transmitted technical specifications for a simple medical device, a scanner that can detect cancer cells years earlier than anything we have now. It's proof that we come bearing gifts, not threats." The Earth ships surrounded them but didn't fire. John's gamble had bought them a window of opportunity. They landed in a field outside John's hometown, immediately surrounded by military vehicles. Armed soldiers approached cautiously as the ship's door opened. John stepped out first, hands raised. "My name is John Miller. I'm human, and I've returned with knowledge that can help our world." A military officer stepped forward. "We've received your transmission. The medical device. Our scientists say it's revolutionary." "That's just the beginning," John replied. "But you should know that the Vex are coming. They want what I carry in my mind, and they won't ask nicely." The officer studied John for a long moment, then nodded. "Then we'd better hear what you have to say, and quickly." As Susan and HFY emerged from the ship, John looked up at the sky. Earth had just gained incredible knowledge, but also powerful enemies. The real challenge was just beginning. 6 months passed since John Miller returned to Earth with the legacy of the Founders. Those months changed humanity forever. In a secure facility built specifically for the project, John worked with Susan, HFY, and a carefully selected team of Earth's top scientists. Each day, he shared another piece of the vast knowledge stored in his mind. "It's like having a library inside my head," John explained to Dr. Kate Wilson, the project's director. "I can access different sections when I need them." The first technologies they released to the world were medical. A device that could cure cancer with a single treatment, a vaccine that protected against all viral infections, a regeneration method that could regrow lost limbs. Hospitals around the world began using these innovations, saving millions of lives. Children who had been given months to live returned home healthy. War veterans walked on legs they thought were gone forever. Next came clean energy, small generators that pulled energy directly from what John called the space between spaces. One device the size of a microwave could power an entire city without fuel, pollution, or waste. "We need to move carefully," John cautioned when governments demanded more advanced technologies. Some knowledge could be dangerous if released too quickly. Not everyone was happy with this approach. Protests erupted in some countries, demanding immediate access to all the legacy knowledge. Corporations whose businesses would be made obsolete lobbied against the new technologies. One morning, as John arrived at the facility, a red light flashed on the special communicator HFY had given him. "The Vex fleet has entered your solar system," the alien announced when they gathered in the secure meeting room. 12 warships. They will reach Earth in 7 days. Military leaders from around the world joined an emergency video conference. "Can we fight them?" asked General Rivera of the United Space Defense Force. "Not with current Earth technology," HFY replied. "The Vex weapons would destroy your fleet in minutes." John closed his eyes, searching through the legacy knowledge. "There's another way," he said finally. "But I'll need everyone's help." For the next week, scientists and engineers worldwide worked around the clock, following John's instructions to build a planetary defense system. Special satellites were rushed into orbit. Receiving stations were constructed at key points around the globe. As the Vex fleet approached, Earth waited in tense silence. News channels showed the alien ships, dark, angular vessels that blocked out the stars behind them. "They're broadcasting a message," Susan reported from the communications center. "They're demanding that Earth surrender John and all legacy technology immediately. Otherwise, they'll begin planetary bombardment." John stood on the roof of the facility, looking up at the night sky where the Vex ships were now visible as black shadows against the stars. Susan joined him, her face tense with worry. "Is it ready?" she asked. John nodded. "Just finished the final calibrations." He pressed a button on a small device in his hand. Around the world, the receiving stations activated simultaneously. The satellites in orbit began to glow with soft blue light, the same color as the legacy sphere. A shimmering field of energy spread from the satellites, enveloping the entire planet in a protective bubble. When the Vex fired their weapons, the energy blasts simply disappeared into the shield, absorbed and converted to strengthen the barrier further. The founders built their technology on harmony, not destruction, John explained as they watched the ineffective Vex attack. Their greatest achievement was creating energy systems that grow stronger when attacked. After 3 days of failed assaults, the Vex fleet retreated. Earth had won its first interstellar conflict without firing a single shot. In the months that followed, humanity began to venture beyond Earth using ships built with legacy technology. Colonies were established on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Explorers reached nearby star systems, making peaceful contact with other civilizations. John remained at the center of it all, carefully guiding the release of founder knowledge. The ordinary lab technician who had once lived a lonely, unremarkable life now shaped the future of his entire species. "All of this from one drop of blood," Susan said as they watched the first interstellar passenger ship launch from Earth. John smiled. The founders were right. The greatest rewards come to those who prove themselves worthy of them. Above them, the stars no longer seemed distant and unreachable. They were the next stop in humanity's journey, a journey that began with one ordinary man and one extraordinary drop of blood.